Hi everybody, it's Miss Mizzy, and I am going to be talking about order of operations today. As you can see, what I have listed here are the letters P, E, M, D, A, and S. And I refer to it in my classroom simply as PEMDAS. Everybody knows it as order of operations. Some school systems actually replace the P with a B, and I'll explain why that is later. But for right now, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to simplify expressions. Now, expression, that's a brand new vocab word. An expression is a mathematical phrase that contains numbers and operation symbols. When we get a little bit farther into our school year and into our curriculum, variables are going to start encompassing those expressions. But for right now, we're going to deal with just numbers and operations. And you know when I mean operations, I mean addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. The great thing about these expressions is that there are no equal symbols. However, when we say we need to simplify, that means that we need to create the actual value of what is actually expanded on the piece of paper. So let's actually figure out what PEMDAS actually means. We use this mnemonic device. A lot of people say, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, and they remember the mnemonic device, but they don't exactly remember what please excuse my dear Aunt Sally means. So let's kind of walk through it piece by piece. I really enjoyed to color code. If you like to, your notes may be color coded as well. It's very good for visual learners to color code your notes if you have time. So we're going to start with P. Now P, I'm going to put in green here. P is the first thing that we do here, and there's a big misconception with our letter P. We see P as parentheses. Now, some school systems use the letter B for the word brackets. This is true that brackets also mean that we start with those pieces first. So the big misconception about parentheses is when do I solve what's inside and when do I get rid of my parentheses altogether? Once everything is simplified inside the parentheses, those parentheses go away. We'll get into that later in our curriculum this year, but for right now, that's just something you need to be aware of. The next thing that we're going to be working on is E, and that is exponents. I'm going to talk about exponents right now, but we're not going to actually deal with them until middle of the year this year. But exponents look something like this. You would have a number, let's just say 2. This is called your base. And many of you have seen little tiny little numbers that hover over these larger numbers. Let's say we have a 3 up top here. All this means is that 2 is going to be multiplied 3 times. Well, we know 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. So 2 to the third power would be considered 8. Again, not going to deal with this right now, but I wanted to let you know that E means exponent, and we're going to review that later. So let's go on to M and D. This is something that I believe years and years ago was not put as a really important detail when it came to order of operations. However, I want to make sure that we know about this now. M and D, you want to put both of these together. M stands for multiplication, D stands for division. So we'll just put our little signs here for multiplication and division. What's really important is that when you have done everything in your parentheses, simplified all of your exponents, and all that's left is multiplication, division, and these last 2 letters, You want to look for the multiplication and division and simplify those from left to right. It used to be thought that wherever you saw multiplication, you did multiplication first, and then you went on to division. That is not the case. You solve this from left to right. So even if you have a division problem first in your series of operations, you need to divide first, then multiply whatever comes in order from left to right. So you probably know what the A and the S stands for. I'm going to put this in orange. A and S are grouped together as well. This is addition and subtraction. And again, very, very important, when all that's left is addition and subtraction, you solve the rest of this problem from left to right. So PEMDAS, aka order of operations, goes a lot more than just, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. There are very specific rules when dealing with these order of operations, and I still like to use this mnemonic device because it's very important. We just need to know the incredible importance that each one of these letters is useful in dealing with simplifying expressions. So for all of our problems, I'm going to keep our order of operations mnemonic device up here with all of our notes listed. Again, want to be very, very certain. Our exponents we are not going to use today because we don't know half of what exponents mean yet. I just gave you a really quick overview, so don't worry about exponents yet. I have a very simple expression. Take a look at this expression, 18 plus 11 times 6. Do you see an equal symbol? No, and that's okay. We can create an equal symbol if that helps us out because we're used to equal symbols. However, it's not necessary. And when we simplify, we're trying to combine all like terms. These are all whole numbers. We can multiply, we can add, we can subtract, we can do whatever we'd like with these. So the first thing that we need to check is P. Are there any parentheses? No. Move on to E. Are there any exponents? No. Now we're going to look at multiplication and division as a whole. Do we see either? I see multiplication. So right here, I'm going to simplify 11 times 6. So we know 11 times 6 is 66. I'm going to change my colors here so we know that each line is a different color. This simplifies to 66. Now we can't just leave that 18 hanging there. So we need to figure out, okay, well, what's going on with that 18? What do we need to do with that 18? Obviously, there is an addition symbol next to the 18. So you need to bring down your 18 and bring down your addition symbol. We just simplified this a little bit more. Now, let's go back up to PEMDAS. Do we see any more multiplication and division? I sure don't. So now we can move on to addition and subtraction. Do you see any? Of course, we see addition. And the addition that we're going to complete is 18 plus 66. If you need to do any scratch work, feel free. I'll do some with you right now. Scratch work over onto the side so I'm still organized. 66, 18, addition. 6 plus 8 is 14. Drop the 4, carry the 1. 6 plus 1 is 8. My final answer here is 84. My goal was to obtain one final value that I simplified. Do you see any equal symbols there? No, I decided not to use them. I worked in a vertical fashion here. You could work horizontally and use equal symbols. That's no problem with me. However, it wouldn't be an expression. So this is my way of simplifying expressions. You can do it any other way that you seem fit. Now I have a brand new problem here. This one's awfully interesting because it encompasses 3 operations. And we've got something else going on here too. This says 14 minus the quantity of 7 plus 5 divided by 2. So when I say the quantity of, that usually means that it's in parentheses. So let's look at our order of operations, aka PEMDAS. I am going to use a different color marker. Let's look at P. P stands for parentheses. Do we see any parentheses? Absolutely, I see 7 plus 5. So we're going to simplify this. We know that 7 plus 5 equals 12. It's very important that you copy down everything that's left. I see way too many students not copying things down and thinking they can just keep on going, either from left to right, mental math. It's really, really important to copy everything down. So I'm going to bring down my subtraction symbol, 14, and the division by 2. Now I'm going to look and see, is there any more parentheses? Why didn't I keep the parentheses around my 12? I don't need the parentheses anymore because everything inside of my parentheses has already been simplified. Now let's look down here. Parentheses, nope. Exponents, of course not. Now let's look at multiplication and division. Do we have either multiplication or division? I see division right here. That's what we're going to take care of. This here says 12 divided by 2. 12 divided by 2, we know simplifies to 6. Let's bring down our 14 minus and switch out our markers. So it might be obvious to some of us that now we only have one operation left. And luckily, it is either addition or subtraction. It ends up being subtraction. 14 minus 6 is 8. And I'm all simplified. Do you see how I have really nice organizational skills here? Everything is coming down in a triangle of sorts. I used to have one student who would draw a triangle around his work when he was finished. That's absolutely fine. If that keeps you really organized during your homework, by all means, absolutely do it. Hope you have a better understanding of order of operations.